Hi, thanks for joining me in the cabin tonight. It's been a very cold one lately, hasn't it? With lots of minus temperatures down to minus 13 in places. It's a fairly mild one tonight, about 2 degrees. But it's nice and toasty in the cabin. It's about 27 degrees.
Yeah, the fire was on.
Yeah, the fire's on, blaring away. I've got my son with me here.
Hello!
Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed my recent uploads. I've got a whole bunch more content in the lineup. Bushcraft, survival, wild camping, off-grid, just outdoor stuff, and what else?
Also fires.
Fires,
Loads of
yeah.
fires.
There's always fires involved, isn't there? Most of my viewers are non-subscribers, so if you've liked what you've seen, please subscribe, it'll help me out, and hopefully you'll like the future content coming up. So I thought I'd do some videos like this, just general chatting about outdoor stuff and whatever, topics like that. So this first one is going to be about big cats in the UK. Now I haven't talked to you about this before, have I? About big cats? No. Well, I mean, I don't read newspapers or watch TV, but I see the odd clips of things on the phone, you know, just scrolling through the phone. And I see, now and again I see things about big cat sightings in the UK. And if you Google big cat sightings in the UK, and see all newspaper articles on there, you read the articles, and they all describe it as like a myth, or you know, like describe someone who's taking a photo of a big cat, and it's like John Jones seems to think he's seen a big cat, and blah blah blah, and you know, you see some photos. And they're, you know, people think, okay, you know, fair enough, it looks a bit questionable because it's far away and it's fuzzy. But you can blatantly see the outline of a big cat. And, you know, there's so many sightings year in, year out, and it's just treated like it's some sort of myth, like it's, you know, some sort of conspiracy theory or something like that. But I know firsthand that they do exist. They are around in the country because I've seen one personally, and yeah, a few other experiences. So the first one was I was about probably just a bit older than you. I was like nine or 10, maybe 11, and it was Christmas time. Yeah, it was probably around about this time of year, and me and brother and mum and dad went out to the reservoir out in the mountains, covered in snow everywhere, and we went for a walk through the woods, way off the beaten track, path through these woods, got out into this little clearing, and we come across these huge paw prints. And we thought that was odd. It was like, it's not a dog because there wasn't any human footprints around other than the ones that we made going in. And they were about 6 or 7 feet apart, like a massive stride. And they weren't dog prints. You know, in recent years I looked up, you know, or later on looked up, you know, what's a big cat print, what's a dog print. You know, they were huge. And we took a photo. We had, you know, it was film, 35mm film in those days. So we took a photo, and you know, we eagerly awaited the photos coming back from the developers. And afterwards, we realised we got a photo of this big footprints, but we didn't have anything as comparison next to it, like a hand or anything like that. So I was a bit annoyed with that afterwards, but yeah, they were big cat prints. And so the next experience was I was in school, in secondary school or high school, as you'd call it in America, I think. So I think I must have been about 15, and I was in maths class, and our maths class was in a porter cabin on the edge of the school, and next to these porter cabins were sheep fields going up this steep hillside. And I was, bored in school as usual. I was just looking out the window, casually looking out the window, just trying to pass the time. And a few sheep dotted in the field, and up the side of this top of this slope, there's gorse bushes and things. I looked up this hillside, and I saw a big cat up on the hillside going through the gorse bushes. And 100%, it was definitely a big cat, and it was just skulking in and out these gorse bushes. Whether it was stalking the sheep or not, I don't know. But you could see the size comparison with the sheep. You could tell it was, it was 1.5 times longer than the sheep and low to the ground, jet black. So I know 100% it was a big black cat, puma or something like that. And anyway, it was probably about 10-15 seconds I was watching it just stalking along, and the maths teacher collared me and he's like shouted, "Oh, pay attention," or whatever he said. And I turned back to the teacher and I was like, mouth was wide open, and I was just like, I was a bit sort of shocked. I was like, do I say something? And he said, "Oh," "stop looking at the sheep." So I was like shocked, and I was like, "Oh, do I say something?" And I was like, after sort of 5 seconds or so, I looked back in the field, and I didn't see anything. It was, gone behind the gorse bush. I kept looking throughout the remainder of the class, just like trying to see if I could see it, but didn't see it again. Anyway, so another experience was, I think must have been about 16, and it was me, my brother, and 2 friends went camping, and I think we got a lift out to this little town, tiny little town, right out in the hills. And we walked up this road. There's a valley that goes all the way up the hills, through the hills, and we had no plan. It was just whatever happens, we're just going and camping somewhere. And out in the middle of nowhere, there's this little farm by the road. I thought, we'll stop here and ask if we can just camp in one of their fields. So I spoke to the farmer. He was fine about it, and he said he'd come and collect water from the tap outside and things like that. Anyway, so we camped in the field. It was probably about 3 fields away from the farm, and I don't know whether it was we stayed there a few nights. I can't remember if it was the first night or second night. A couple of the others were awake in the tent, and I was asleep, so I missed it, but I was there. But they heard something walking round the tent and tripping the guy lines on the tent. A big, 4-legged creature just skulking around the tent, investigating or whatever. And they told me about this in the morning. I was like, what the hell, what was that? And there weren't any sheep in the field. There were some in the field next door. No sheep had got into our bit of field. There were dogs on the farm, but they were chained up outside. And so that morning we saw the farmer, went down to the farm, and we asked him, were your dogs loose last night? And he said, no, they weren't loose. We told him what happened, something going around the tent. And he said, well, actually, I think we thought, oh, was it a big cat, And he said, well, a year ago there was one half a mile up the road. Yeah, just saw it going across the road, crossing to the next field. So that we were like, oh yeah, might well have been. So that was a bit of a intimate experience with possible big cat. And going forward quite a few years, house that I lived in, that I bought, when was it? Back in 2013. There was sightings nearby, a couple of miles away. I saw a newspaper article, local newspaper, and there was a guy who had seen a big cat numerous times, had many sightings of it, and there was just some article in the local paper about it, and he was trying to capture some photos of it or something like that. So that was only a few miles away, and I'd actually camped in the sort of the wooded valley where he saw them a couple of times. But actually going back to the very beginning, I forgot to say, when the village that I grew up in, tiny little village, there's a scrapyard just on the edge of the village, and the guy had two big black cats, two big pumas, as guard cats. They were like his guard dogs that protected the scrapyard, and his our neighbour was his brother-in-law, so we heard from him. And I think when the Dangerous Animals Act in the UK came in, is it 1976? I think it was, well, before I was born. I think it's been amendments, over the years. So I guess it was 1976. I know he released these two big cats in the wild. I don't know if it was near the village or he took them out, the hills and released them. So yeah, there's big cats. There's big cats around that area at that point. Anyway, I read an article that I looked up when I was looking about big cat signs in the UK, and some expert reckons there's 1,000 pairs or 1,000 animals lurking around the UK. I don't know where they come up with that figure, but they're so elusive. They're so good at what they do. They can remain hidden in wild areas, and they obviously seem to be breeding, because you get sightings year in, year out. So they're out there, and well, I've seen one firsthand. So it's not a myth. They're out there. It doesn't bother me when I'm out. I'm often out solo wild camping, and it does appear in my mind. I occasionally think about it, and it's like, oh, what if one comes out of the darkness? But it doesn't bother me. They're probably more wary of coming in contact with humans than being a danger to us. So I shouldn't worry about it. But they're out there. I think I'll do some more of these chats in the cabin, about various things. Always remember, reality is not limited to your perception. Thank you for watching.
Bye.